The House That Never Sleeps. The New Beginning. The Thompsons had always dreamed of owning a house in the countryside. When they stumbled upon a beautiful Victorian-style home at an unbelievably low price, they couldn't resist. The house was massive, with an attic, a basement, and a large garden surrounded by towering trees. It seemed like the perfect place to start anew. "Why is it so cheap?" Sarah, the mother, asked the real estate agent. The woman hesitated for a moment before forcing a smile. "The previous owners left suddenly, but there's nothing wrong with the house. It's just been vacant for a while." John, her husband, shrugged. "Sounds like a steal to me." With their two children, 10-year-old Emily and 6-year-old Daniel, the family moved in within a week. But from the very first night, something felt off. The sounds above. The first time they heard it, they thought it was just the house settling. A soft creaking noise, like footsteps pacing above their bedroom ceiling. John turned to Sarah in the dark. "Did you hear that?" She nodded. "Probably the wind." But the noises continued every night, the rhythmic creaking, as if someone was walking in the attic. John checked several times, but the attic was always empty, just old furniture and dust-covered boxes. One evening, as they were having dinner, Daniel suddenly looked up. "Who's that?" he whispered. Sarah followed his gaze to the ceiling. "What do you mean, honey?" "The man up there. He's walking again." John and Sarah exchanged uneasy glances. Emily looked at her brother, frowning. "There's no one there, Danny." Daniel just shook his head and returned to his food, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching them. The cold spot. The hallway near the attic door was always freezing. Even in the middle of summer, when the rest of the house was warm, that spot remained icy. One night, Sarah decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight, she slowly opened the attic door. A wave of cold air rushed past her, making her shiver. The attic was the same as always, dusty, abandoned, lifeless. But then she saw something strange. A chair had been pulled away from an old wooden table, as if someone had been sitting there. But no one had been in the attic. That night, Sarah dreamed of a shadow standing in the attic, staring down at her through the ceiling. When she woke up, she found scratches on the wooden floor, long, deep marks as if someone had been dragged Emily's secret. A week later, Emily stopped sleeping in her room. Instead, she would sneak into her parents' bed every night. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Sarah asked one morning. Emily hesitated, then whispered, "He watches me." Sarah's heart pounded. "Who watches you?" "The man from the attic." John tried to reassure her. "There's no man, Em. It's just a scary dream." Emily looked at them with wide, serious eyes. "Then why does he whisper my name?" Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. That night she stayed awake, listening. At exactly 3:12 a.m., she heard it. A whisper. "Emily." It came from above. The sleepless house, Sarah convinced John to check the attic again, but this time he noticed something different. The dust on the floor had been disturbed, leading to a far corner of the room. When he followed the trail, he found an old wooden chest. Inside, he discovered a bundle of yellowed papers, newspaper clippings from decades ago. The headlines made his blood run cold. "Local man disappears, last seen in family home. Victorian house abandoned after mysterious vanishing. Witness claims to see shadow in attic window." One article had a picture of a man. His face was gaunt, eyes hollow. The name below the photo read, "Thomas Greaves, 1947. John felt a presence behind him. He turned quickly, but the attic was empty. The air, however, felt heavier, as if something unseen was breathing right next to him. Daniel's friend Daniel started talking to someone when no one was around. Sarah walked into his room one afternoon and found him sitting in the corner, whispering. "Who are you talking to, Danny?" He smiled. "Thomas. He says the house doesn't like to be quiet. It likes footsteps." Sarah's stomach clenched. "Who told you that name?" Daniel shrugged. "He did." That night, the pacing above their ceiling grew louder. It wasn't just slow, rhythmic steps anymore, it was running. The truth revealed, Sarah decided to research Thomas Greaves. She found an old woman in town who had lived there when the disappearance happened. "Thomas wasn't just a man," the woman said. "He was a prisoner of that house." Sarah frowned. Prisoner? The woman nodded. The house has always been awake. It doesn't like being empty. If no one is walking inside, it finds someone to walk for it. Sarah's breath hitched. You mean, Thomas disappeared, but no one ever saw him leave. They say he's still there, keeping the house from falling silent. Sarah rushed home, heart racing. When she stepped inside, the house felt different. The silence was overwhelming. Then upstairs, a loud thump echoed from the attic. The house wasn't empty. The final night. That night, Sarah, John, Emily, and Daniel all slept in the same room. But even together, they weren't safe. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the whispers started. Emily, Daniel, Sarah. Then footsteps, heavy, urgent, right above them. John grabbed a flashlight. We need to end this. Together they climbed to the attic. The air was freezing, the darkness thick. The moment they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them. Then a voice, low and hollow. You shouldn't have come. A figure emerged from the shadows. A man, thin and grey, his eyes sunken, his lips cracked. Thomas Greaves. He raised a trembling hand. Keep walking, he whispered. If you stop, the house will take you. Then, before their eyes, he vanished. John grabbed Sarah's hand. We're leaving, now. They ran. The house trembled, the walls groaning, the footsteps following them. As they reached the front door, Sarah swore she felt fingers brushing against her shoulder. Then, silence. The house stopped. They never looked back. Epilogue. The house awaits. The Thompsons moved away the next morning, leaving everything behind. Months later, a new family moved in. And on their first night, at exactly 3:12 a.m., the footsteps began again.